So we'll go ahead and get started from the top. The cool thing about this is that this particular excerpt is in concert B flat. So for you guys who are doing this, or I guess who did this by the time this episode was here, this should be an easy place to start, and that's one of the reasons why. What am I looking for? That was one of the reasons why I decided to start with this one. I'm looking for concert pitch. Here we go. Displaying this in concert pitch so that you guys can listen to it and hear it from that sort of perspective as I go along. And that itself repeats. I'm not even sure if this starts in the first trumpet. I might actually put this in the second trumpet once we get a little further, because there's a little bit of layering that happens on after this. You know, the first trumpet part goes up one voicing to here, as I'm sure you guys are able to hear when you go back and listen to the video. Okay, so what I'm kind of doing here is I start with what I feel most strongly about, what maybe is the easiest to hear, or whatever the case may be. Since I'm a trumpet player, a lot of times that is the trumpet part. It could also very oftentimes be the tuba part. It's a lot easier, I think, if you've ever done any sort of transcriptions, you'll know this is a lot easier to hear the highest part and the lowest part than it is to hear the stuff in the middle. And sometimes once you have, or actually most of the time, once you have that groundwork laid from the top and the bottom, it becomes easier to put whatever's in the middle. If you have moving lines that happen within the texture, like this particular excerpt does, it'll be also a lot easier to, fill in the top, fill in the bottom, then fill in those excerpts. You don't have to start and do an entire line once at the same time. You can really just write in little bits and pieces of what you know, and then literally connect the dots or fill in the puzzle pieces as you go through. So, start with what you know that you can get 100% or as close to as 100% well, without having to struggle, and then allow that to be your foundation to keep going. So that's what I'm doing right now. We'll go and we'll fill in that last little part later, but I do want to go ahead and add the tuba part in, just so that you guys can have a little bit more of a reference. So beam bum bum beam bum bum. Oh, and you know what? Actually, before I do that, let's stop and take a quick break. I did also want to show you guys, and I forgot to do this at the beginning of the video, that I'm using those same two head cams that I used for the high brass feature that I did before. And as you see, I kind of saved these three before I started because I knew I was going to use these three. I told you last time that these were both tuba head cams. That was a misgiving of information. This particular one is actually a baritone head cam, and I made that mistake because before I was doing the high brass feature, I was listening to a bunch of tuba head cams, but then I ended up choosing a video that wasn't a tuba head cam because I wanted a reference. As a trumpet player, it's great to have these head cams because these are both low brass players, and so it's easier for you to hear your own instrument. I think you'll find if you play an instrument for a certain period of time, you can pick out your instrument out of textures a lot more easily than you can pick out somebody else's instrument. So it definitely helps to have these low brass parts. Not to mention that trumpet is the highest sounding instrument in a drum corps, typically speaking, and so it's easiest to hear them because they're higher in the tessitura than the rest of the brass instruments. And the lower you go, typically speaking, the more the harder you'll have to listen. So anyway, I might come back and reference this tuba head cam if I run into a roadblock while I'm writing this tuba part, but I don't think I will. So we'll see. So we've got the tuba part starts on measure 2, and they're quarter notes, but they're separated. So I'm gonna go ahead and bum bing bum bum. I'm gonna go ahead and show that they're separated before I forget that. by putting articulation in to match that. Finale in this case has a legato staccato marking, just so you hear how it sounds. And I think that's exactly what we're looking for in this context. Okay, cool. So actually, I think what I'm going to do is, before I finish out this tuba line, I'm going to go ahead and write out the parts that that sound familiar to me. So the next moving line we have would be here. And it comes in B2. So this is what I was talking about before. Doing the parts that you feel strongly about. So that when you come back and put down everything else later, you'll have a reference point to go by that you know you're comfortable with. Beep, ba, bum, bum, ba, 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 bum, I think. Dee, 1, dee, ba, 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 bum. So this is what we're going to do. For the most part, this will probably be unison as well. We'll put the slur here. There are a couple of points where I know it splits. Sounds right to me, so we're gonna put it like that. And then we have is the next part, next moving part. Also comes in on beat 4. All right, I think I'm gonna make that horn run, even though I don't think it's supposed to be this way. I'm gonna make it 16 notes. I might go back and change it to 2 triplets. It depends. It depends on my mood. We'll see when we go back and do some detailing. Okay. But of course, we want it to be natural. And we want this whole thing to be an octave lower. I was like, why does it sound like that? Down da 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 dee bum 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 ya da 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 dee. And it might not seem like much, but it's gonna give us a very strong groundwork for what is to come. Whoops. So I'll have to go back and fix that. Oh yeah, that's gonna work really nicely. Okay, cool. So we've gotten pretty far. There's still a number of things I want to write down that I know for a fact are the case, and I don't expect you guys to use this exact method like right off the bat. In other words, like listening to the entire thing and remembering these large, wide stretches of information. The reason I'm able to do this is because I've had a lot of practice with it. I remember this playback. We're going to fix this real quick. I've had a lot of practice with, listening and transcribing and stuff like that. So I can do larger chunks like that. If you have to listen to something over and over and over again in order to get it done, then do it. And you'll find probably at some point during this show transcription, maybe even in this particular transcription, that I'll have to do it. And I'm going to show you guys a trick real soon once we get back to listening to it, to the other stuff for reference, that will hopefully help speed up that process for you and make it a little less gruesome. So anyway, we're back here. We're going to continue writing the stuff that we know. And one of the things that I know is that rhythmically we've got the same thing going in our baritone section, baritone euphonium section. That is also in the baritone line, so we'll do that. I don't entirely remember what the tuba line is rhythmically, but I'm pretty sure I know what the bass notes are, so we're going to go ahead and fill the bass notes in as reference, and if we need to change the rhythm, which we will, because I'm pretty much putting whole notes here, when we go back and listen, we'll change the rhythm. Oh, and that actually, I know that this half note comes in on 2, so that means this first half note is a quarter note. Beam, boom. We're going to leave it there as well. I also changed my mind about this. We're gonna stretch it out because and so that's closer. I really think that is a quintuplet, or maybe a triplet. But I think that'll do. That'll be fine for now. We're gonna spend a little bit of time to go and fill out this trumpet line. Now what I'm doing right here, I'm not entirely sure what the trumpet lines are, but just using my knowledge of theory and using knowledge of triads and chord progressions and such, I am writing in what I believe would be correct. And if it sounds really wrong, then of course I'll go back and listen and fix it. But most of the time, if you're able to hear the chords and then just fill in the chord structures there, you should be in good luck. This particular excerpt we'll see, because like I said, there's a lot of counterpoint, there's a lot of complications here, like movements out of the texture and inside of the texture, and so we've got some suspensions here. We'll see. We'll see if this works. Okay, I think that's right. It's pretty close. Okay, so now what we're doing is we've gotten past the point where we write what we know. I'm orchestrating based off of the chords that I've heard when I listen to the playback. So I know what notes go into each chord, and so I'm making assumptions about what the voicing is. If I go back and listen to it and the voicing sounds off, then I'll go back and change the voicing. I'll make a different note of the chord, I'll put a different note of the chord onto a different instrument, or whatever it needs to be in order for me to make it sound good. So hopefully that was a weird way to explain it. Hopefully that made sense. I know that this is for example, that these hits are a G minor chord. So what I'm doing is putting the G on the top in the trumpet because I know that's on the top, and then the other two notes of a G minor triad are D and B flat. So hopefully when I explain it that way, it makes sense. And of course, D would be in the trumpet 2 part because D is higher than B flat, and then B flat would be in the trumpet 3 part. So here I'm thinking G major chord starts on a G on the first trumpet, so that means a D and a B flat must be in trumpet 2 and trumpet 3 respectively. Okay, that's my logic when I go and make something like this. And as you see, it sounds correct as I do that. And in this case, we're continuing and making our inferences here before we go back and listen. We're going to do as much as we possibly can before we go back and listen to the music. This stuff, we're going to assume that it's the same thing down the octave. That's usually what it is when we're talking about triad harmonies, or triad chords, rather. Okay, so we might need to revoice that, but for now it sounds correct. Da 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 dee ba ba bum ba 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 bum ba ba be beam ba dum. Oh yeah, before I do that copy, because I believe both mellophone parts play that in unison. But before I do that, let's put a grace note rip in here. Whoops. We're changing this because I think this is split as well, just like the first trumpet, second trumpet part. And actually, no, we're gonna leave it. No, I changed my mind because I think that second trumpet part is doubled in the in the baritone part. So we're going to leave that as B, and listen to what it sounds like right now. Okay. So it looks so far so good. So what I'm doing right now is I know this is a B flat chord, and the B flat is in the bass, and then the B flat is also on the top split of the trumpet part. So I'm just filling in the voice. We have a 9, the 9 of the chord, resolving to the root of the chord and the third measure of that. So we're going to leave that as is, and then we go and fill everything else out in accordance to the B flat chord. Let's see how this sounds like. So that's the result. And as you hear, I put the 5th of the chord in the trumpet 3, as I was saying before. I think that's going to sound, I thought that was going to sound better because we already have the root of the chord happening with a suspension in the horn, and then it'll allow us to put that third of the chord in the baritone part, the baritone 1 part, to double the trumpet part, the trumpet 2 part. So one more listen to that chord. I like the way that voice sounds. So you're probably getting a sense for how I do these transcriptions. I kind of jump around and just kind of sporadically almost add the things that that I think are going to make this happen, because it's a lot easier to do what I know than to get stuck on something I'm not entirely sure about and to sit and think about it. Sometimes context clues from the other stuff that you don't have to work as hard to put down will help you to put down the other things. It's like a puzzle piece. So let's see. What else do I know before listening back? We can add in those power chords. We can add in some of the second trumpet stuff here. Bum, beam, bum, bum, I know that there's not a third. I know for a fact that they didn't take the trumpet down below the register. At least I don't think. If they did, they have some incredibly amazingly good third trumpets to be doing that on the field. I'm pretty sure they didn't do that. So that again makes me think that maybe the first trumpet doesn't play here, and that the first trumpet only comes in on the 9th bar of this, and that this is actually second trumpet. In a high school band setting, you probably wouldn't do that. You probably wouldn't want to expose your second trumpets as leads. But in a drum corps setting with, the best brass line in the world, arguably, you could do that and it wouldn't be a problem. And another option would be that 1 and 2 are doubled and that horns are doubling third trumpet. I don't know. I'll have to go back and listen. We were going to change this. I know that. Beep bum 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 ba da 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 deem. I'm pretty sure we were going to fill out these power chords. Ba 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 bum beep 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 beam. Yep. I'm pretty confident that's correct. And with the voicing, we're going to go ahead and put this in here. Bring all these things down the octave. And I think we're going to revoice it so that this is in the bottommost voice. So we're just inverting the chord here, which would bring that down another octave. That makes sense to me. Now, we're going to go ahead and go back and take a listen. What I want to do first is I want to check this tuba part, because this tuba part I think is more complicated than it's appearing when it gets here. Because remember, I put those down just because I thought I knew what the notes were. I wasn't sure what the rhythm was. I want to make sure we give the tubas their due attention, because tuba parts can sometimes be really boring in music, and I think that Michael Klesch did a really good job of making it not as boring, because he's awesome. So I want to see exactly what he did, so we're going to listen to the tuba head cam for this section. And follow along. Okay. Yeah. So you can already tell I'm making changes because I heard some pretty obvious things. We heard that pick up to that next measure, and then this is a 3-note pickup, not a 2-note pickup like I thought it was before. I'm not entirely sure if this is what I heard or not, but if it is what I heard, then I want to put it in, just because it looks more fun than a whole note. I do this a lot too whenever I write music originally or whenever I arrange music. Anytime I can get the tuba players not playing block whole notes, the better. Anytime I can get them playing something that'll sort of spice up their life. They're musicians just like any of us are, and you know, they deserve to have music that they would, you know, want to work on and not get bored at. So before I go back and listen again to Crown play it in that sample recording, I've already made the decision to make this a high brass low bass thing because I'm pretty sure that's how they do it in the actual video, and even if they don't, it makes sense to me to do that. The trumpets might be all in unison. I don't know that they are. However, I'm pretty darn sure that the lead part and the second part are in unison, and that the entire mellophone section would be in unison during this line. So I think I'm gonna put the third trumpets with the mellophones just to have that trumpet timbre, and because it would make sense to me if I were the arranger to do that. I don't know if that's what Michael Klesch did, but that's what I'm gonna do. I'm pretty sure that splits. But we'll find out in a moment because we're about to listen to that baritone head cam, because I know that there's some syncopation that goes on in the tenor and baritone voices at some point around here, but I don't know exactly where it is or what those notes are, or if the entire baritone line is syncopated or if it's just a couple of the parts. So we're going to go back and listen to see if we can figure that out. And okay, here we are. This is the baritone one. 721. Cool. Ooh. We're going to have to listen to that one again. Listen to that a couple more times, so I'll go ahead and use that opportunity to show you the thing that I alluded to before, that I was going to show you that could help you. In order to do that, we'll need to get out of playlist mode. But if you guys are not aware of this, then this will help you a lot whenever you do stuff like transcriptions and you just can't find something out and you have to listen to it really carefully. There is a site called YouTube Repeater. And all you need to do is write repeater after the YouTube URL, and it'll take you to the same exact video. And it'll put your video on an endless loop. According to YouTube, I'm clicking too fast, which is strange. Okay. Well, anyway. So on YouTube Repeater, what's cool about YouTube Repeater is that it automatically repeats from start to end, but if you need it to repeat at a certain section, you can have it repeat at that certain section. And I think that was like 720, I will say 727 was where it started, I guess. Actually, kind of started before then. And then, of course, you can have it end at wherever the end of your sample was. We're going to have it end right there because that's the part that we're trying to listen to. Okay? So then it'll repeat it for you, and you can listen over and over again to see if you're getting what you're looking for or not, or if you need to listen more. Okay. So what I'm listening for right now that I can't seem to get is this measure right here in the baritone part. And so, because of my knowledge of brass instruments and valve instruments, I'm going to take a look at the fingerings here. You probably won't be able to see it because the video is so jumpy, but what I'm going to do to help me do this is look at these fingerings here and try to guess what the notes are by what I hear and what I see on the fingerings that he's pressing down. So if we go back one time. Okay. Beam ba ba bum, that's what it is. You put down second valve, which I happen to know is an A natural. And then he put down 1 and 2, which is a G natural. And open. Beep ba ba bum. That's what it appeared to be. I would infer that that is the same rhythm that's going to be here. Beam ba ba bum, and that is a doubling of the third trumpet. So I'm probably going to use the second trumpet doubling for this baritone 1. And I'm pretty sure that what I was listening to was the third baritone / euphonium part. Bum 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 bum, doubling the first trumpet part. Whoops. And the syncopation happening right here.